Hello, this is Gary Williams, and welcome to a first. This is quite an exciting first because it's our first Cabaret Secrets video interview. I've done probably about 80 odd Cabaret Secrets podcasts in the past, but this is the first time that I've actually done a live interview with somebody. And the plan is that this won't be edited at all because I'm certain everything that comes out of this man's mouth is going to be pure gold. So let's get Shane Hampshire. I can see him laughing there. Hello, Shane. There's a nice little setup for you. No pressure.
No pressure at all. And I love the fact that your first Cabaret Secrets video podcast type thing is one where I have not had a haircut in about 3 months. So thank you for the perfect timing.
You're very welcome. So look, if anybody wants to know anything about you, it's very easy to find you online. So let's not do all of that stuff. I am going to we're going to cover a few different things in this interview, but I think I'm going to call this How to Get a #1 Record on iTunes. Because it seems that you have really nailed this thing of digital distribution. It was a few years ago, but I think, what was the track? Remind me. I've got it written down here in front of me if I just look hard enough. But
It's hard because
it was Brazil, wasn't it?
Oh, Brazil! Yeah, that was my very first release. So yes, great knowledge. And
just written down learned great knowledge from your website. But
yeah,
am I right? Did that get to #1 in one of the iTunes charts?
Yeah, in the iTunes Jazz Singles chart. Yes. And,
okay.
And the amount of times I've said that phrase is ridiculous. So, that is the chart that I'm most likely to do well in, especially as a jazz singer, but or a jazz type singer.
So let's go. We're all record. It's so easy to record things now. We can record things. I mean, my last album, I recorded the vocals in my cupboard, literally, back in the closet. And it's amazing the result that you can get. But it's one thing to record an album, to record a single.
Yeah,
it's easy to put it up, through onto all the streaming sites.
Yeah.
How do you get those releases to #1 or get some traction in the charts? What is it that you're doing that most people are not?
So you have to, as early as possible, try to build a following. Of course, that does sound obvious, but it's perhaps harder than it sounds. And the way I did that was at gigs for the last decade or so. I've been collecting email addresses and contact details of everyone who's come to the shows, and eventually you build up a mailing list that is still very helpful now. You think perhaps a mailing list is a little old-fashioned, or you can do so much via just social media on its own nowadays, but it's not enough, especially because of the algorithms and things like that. It's ridiculous how hard it is on social media to put your stuff out there and get
noticed, to get seen.
So the best way to ensure that your listeners are receiving your material and news, as you know, Gary, is to email them once a month with an update of what's happening and all this kind of stuff. You will get some people who don't want to get your emails anymore, and they'll let you know, but mostly everybody stays on board with you and is interested in what you have coming up. So now I've developed quite a nice mailing list, and whenever I have a new release coming out, I will just send a nice polite email telling everybody what's happening. That is a big thing, but then a lot of people don't do that, which is very interesting to me, especially people coming through the ranks now. But so that would be the first big thing I would suggest.
Can I ask you how big roughly is your mailing list? I mean, how many people do you need on it to sort of really start making a difference?
Not that many, really, because then, say you had 100 people on a mailing list, they would all tell their people, their friends and family, I've listened, and they will listen to that music at their parties, and it's all word of mouth and things like that. And that's when social media is very helpful. But like my mailing list is not huge, it's still in the hundreds, but it is.
Well, just
effective.
to get, it's funny because only just this, another one of the many things that I've been able to do during lockdown, which I've not had time to do before, is sort of sort out my mailing list. And like you, I'd been collecting email addresses. Originally, when I was doing it in the old days, people used to post things. Let me just switch off this. But then it moved over to a mailing list, email list.
Yeah.
I have had around about 1,000, 1,100 on my mailing list for quite a lot of years.
Yeah.
But one of the things I just went through is I looked at the people who hadn't really been opening emails for. I filtered out the people that hadn't looked at like the last 3 or 4 emails.
Mm-hmm.
That's not. And like you, I do maybe one a month. But I thought if they're not looking, for the last 3 or 4 months, maybe they're not interested anymore. Anyway, so I sent just those people an email saying, "Do you still want to be on?" That was about 250.
Yeah.
I would say about 20 of them came back and said, "Yeah, we still want to be on," and the rest of them I've just taken off because I think it's actually the quantity that you have, whether it's 200 or 500 or 5,000. For me, it's better to have it really good quality, people that are actually really interested, so that your click rate, your open rate on your emails is high, because these people are really interested in what you're doing, right?
Yeah, that does sound, that does make sense to me. Yeah, because you do get an awful lot of people who don't even open the emails, and that's not very helpful. But
what's the point?
Exactly.
So, okay, can you give me a number roughly how many you've got? Are we talking 300, 500?
No,
200?
it's more like 600 or 700.
Okay, so 600 or 700. Yeah. And so when you send these emails out, are you specifically, or what are you asking people to do? When you've got a new release coming out, what are you telling them to do?
What I'm telling them to click a link, and that's really all it takes is just to click one link, and you really have to tell them exactly what you want them to do, and it has to be so clear, because they could read the whole thing and still not really know what you want them to do.
That's funny.
Then that's nice for them, but you do hope for some kind of return for all this hard work putting out this beautiful email. So as long as there's plenty of opportunity in the email, or whatever you put out there, to direct them to where is most helpful, and a lot of people would say that's Spotify nowadays, or perhaps there's a link on your website that would then take them to Spotify, or if they could buy the music directly on your website as well.
And what is it that's actually clocking up the numbers to get you in the iTunes chart? Is the iTunes chart just sales made through Apple, or is it streams through Apple, or does the iTunes chart include streams from anywhere else? What is it to get in that chart? What to get specifically to get to the top of the iTunes Jazz? What is it? iTunes Jazz chart?
iTunes. The UK iTunes Jazz Singles chart, or albums chart.
There you go.
What's interesting is nowadays it's completely different. So when I was growing up, and when we were all growing up, you would listen to the charts on a Sunday on Radio 1 or whatever, and it would be, which single had sold best during that week, or album. But now it's very different, because all of the analytics are there, available to see in real time, and on Spotify and iTunes and things like that. It's kind of more on like concentrated sales during that hour, really. And it does update very quickly. So you could be number 1 at 3 o'clock, and then number 5 at 5 o'clock. So
is the way, because correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that we don't, for artists like us, that we're not superstars. We're successful jobbing singers, right?
Yeah.
For people like us, unless we get very lucky with something special, it's getting to number one in a chart somewhere. It doesn't really matter how many we've sold. It's not that we're expecting to get loads of money in. It's really what we want is that credit, isn't it? It's to say, I was number one. I got to the top of the chart. No one's going to say, oh, how many records did you sell? You know, how many streams did you have to get that? It's like, you know, recording at Abbey Road Studios. Well, you could go and just, you know, record one single. Or, do you know what I mean? Or you could have done a whole series. Or, you know, I've performed at whatever, Carnegie Hall, but you were a guest spot on a, you know, a matinee show that, you know what I mean? As opposed to, you know, doing your own sellout concert. Or if you
performed at Ronnie Scott's, but you were really just a guest for Gary Williams, you know.
or that. So,
that did happen many moons ago, which was a delight. That was my first time performing at Ronnie Scott's, so thank you again.
Well, but, you know, these things are important to us, right? I mean, particularly when we're starting out, we need these kind of little hooks, little bits of accreditation to put on our website, so on our bio, so that people think, oh, okay, they're all right, they're pretty good, and they seem to know what they're doing. So it's a great thing to put on a website, isn't it? A great thing to put on social media. Number one in the iTunes chart. Yeah. And so I think you're telling me that to get that credit, it's not that difficult as long as you know how to play the game.
Yeah. But the easiest way to get that number one, or even just a high position, is to look after your following as you would normally. But they are the people who are going to get you to that position. That being said, it doesn't take many of them.
So can you give me an idea of how many? I mean, do you even know how many? I mean, do you actually?
I kind of do, really. Yeah. It would be great if you could get 50 sales on a single. Wow. And ideally, and you know, seeing as this is Cabaret Secrets and it's really only other performers listening, you would think, then I would say that the best way to ensure that on the day of release you have a number one single in a chart like the iTunes Jazz chart, which doesn't have many releases week to week compared to the pop chart, is to ensure that you have a pre-order set up and in place, because it's basically like a backlog of sales, you know, and it's kind of released into the world on release day. So you could have 50 pre-sales, and at 12 o'clock at night or in that morning, you would have 50 sales that could rocket you straight up to number one, within minutes of it being released.
Even if it's only for an hour or something, it doesn't matter, does it?
As long as you get that screenshot on your phone, and you can put that up on Instagram or whatever. That's what I do.
And does it? If you miss the moment when it was number one, are you able to kind of go back somehow? And is there another way of, or do you have to just sit there, refresh, waiting for it to get there?
Yeah, well, when you've had so many number ones as I have, then you can have your own team who are doing that for you.
Yeah.
Which is not true, of course, because this is Cabaret Secrets, I would say that is the best way to do it, is to ensure you have a pre-order in place.
But just to answer that question, just to sit there and keep refreshing and waiting for it to happen.
Yeah. So
and let's face it, if it's not going to happen, if you've got those pre-orders in place, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen pretty much as soon as the moment it's released, isn't it?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, because on release day, I mean, you should really be focusing people on pre-ordering the single or the material. That's the best way to go about it.
And I know it sounds a stupid question, but going back to what I was saying before, the iTunes chart is only for iTunes sales.
That's right.
Not really for streams.
Amazon has its own chart, and Spotify kind of have their own chart. You can't really see it as easily. They just kind of put things out on playlists and things like that. But it's a little bit more difficult for Spotify. But at least Spotify is better for analytics and things like that, because you have the Spotify for Artists app, which I would also recommend anybody who's releasing music, especially on Spotify, to download the Spotify for Artists app, because it's very good. But get the pre-order in place, get people to pre-order, and then on release day you should have a good shot of appearing highly on the chart.
The genre, when you say is it the chart which you're in?
Yeah.
Is that the genre that you choose when you upload your music to the streaming sites?
Yeah. So there's a lot of power in the distribution and the uploading. So whichever platform you're distributing from, it could be DistroKid or TuneCore, CD Baby, something like that. They're the big three, I'd say. Then you can specify which chart or which genres the single might be entered into that chart. So most of the time I've gone, my primary genre is jazz and my secondary genre is pop, because most of the time these jazz songs that I'm singing are also pop songs, depends on how you want to define them. But and really I don't expect to get even on the pop chart, so I have that jazz chart there just as a backup.
But who's deciding, if you put jazz, who's deciding that it's jazz vocal or what, the sort of subgenre? Is that done automatically?
It's all in the same chart. So, but it's strange because the best selling jazz singles and albums are often vocal singles and albums as well. So it's difficult because you're in the full mix of jazz musicians in that chart. But I was gonna say that so you got to pre-order do the pre-order. Is this gold yet, Gary? You let me know.
It's all gold. I'm loving this. I'm gonna get a number one in next week. I'm gonna.
That's right. But then I guess as soon as you've released and people have already bought pre-ordered the single, then the next step is so strange, is to shift them from iTunes to Spotify, because you can't pre-order on Spotify. You can pre-save, and that's a kind of complicated thing to get your head around as well. But you want Spotify streams, because Spotify is the largest music streaming platform in the world, and they're only getting bigger and bigger. So the iTunes jazz chart number one credit is great for your website, but then after that you want the Spotify streams. So it's strange because you got to direct them in one place where they're going to already have the song.
Like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Oh, what do you want? Oh, you want to go to? What do I do now? What do I do now?
That's so difficult. So
that's where loyalty pays off.
Absolutely, and that's why you have to look after your following. But it is difficult because who's going to buy the single and then stream it on Spotify? Well, I might do that because I love both of those platforms, but and I like to support other artists. But
I think I think the people, we hope that there's a certain percentage, a certain number of our fans, of our followers that are just going to be there for us when we need them, right?
Yeah.
They're going to okay, I don't know what's going on here, but he's told me to do this. It's only going to cost me £1. I'm happy to do that now he wants me to do this. I don't really get it, but I'll just do it because that's what he wants, and I assume that's going to be important to him. And as you said, I mean, it's for the sake of like 50 downloads. I mean, it's such a small number, and if you've got like 600, 700 people on your mailing list, so we've got similar amount. Now I've sort of deleted some of the the ones that weren't following me. 50 odd is a very small percentage of the total number, and I think our fans might underestimate the amount of help that they're able to give us with a very small amount of effort.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a lot easier now, as we've just discussed, to get a number one in a chart. somewhere than it was 25 years ago. But,
However,
yeah,
small numbers there, but
yeah,
what really blew my mind, and
yeah,
I was about, by the way, to get Crystal, your fiance, in,
yeah.
but I know she's just hovering just off. Are you there, Crystal? You can just say hello. Can you just show us your hand or something, just so we know that you exist? Just
That wasn't mine. That was
okay.
manicured.
So Spotify. I mean, you
Yeah,
know what I'm going to say. I was going to actually say last Christmas, but yeah, last Christmas you had the just insane success
yeah,
with Spotify.
yeah.
You recorded a great single, which I have to say it's the success that it's had is well deserved because it's fantastic. I'd listened to it so much.
Oh, Gary, thank
But
you.
you got, well, the last time I looked, like 630 odd
Yeah,
thousand
spot on.
streams.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
That's very different. So that was not to do with your mailing list or anything like that. That was very foreign to me because that's the first time that had ever happened to me. Typically on Spotify, the streams would just trickle through, and at some point it could do well because it ends up on someone's playlist or whatever. But this was
And it's
all.
something you didn't really have. You didn't feel you had any control over.
I
You
had
just
no control over it. But then again, the single was not released by me this time. It was not an independent thing. It was through Silver Screen Records, and they had been. They're like a syncing company. They have like a great music library of songs that they might sell to film and TV and radio and
right.
things like that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah, and they just asked me to record the album, and then they said, "Oh, this is pretty good. Do you want to just release it under your name as well?" So I was like, "Well, yeah, great."
That's interesting. So originally,
yeah,
the original album was really they just needed a vocal, like a session singer,
yeah,
to just sing with a good swing voice
yeah,
or a good voice on this stuff, which they would stick in a library.
yeah,
And if at some point in the future somebody wants a nice version of this song, but they
yeah,
don't want to pay for the Michael Bublé version, then that's the option.
yeah,
And then they
and it
say it
just
was
seemed to
theirs.
work. Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah.
And so then
So
they're
they released
suggesting,
it.
yeah.
So they released it, and here's the other golden nugget for Spotify, or releasing on Spotify, is about a week before the release day, there's an option through the Spotify for Artists app to submit your music to Spotify, the editors, to appear on a Spotify editorial playlist. So
Which is
that
like gold, isn't it? Because that's
yeah.
where they're the big ones.
That's it. So I managed to somehow, and of course it was nothing to do with me because I didn't distribute the music this time. But Silver Screen.
Well, you said nothing to
somehow-
do with you. You did actually, you did create the record, but a small matter of your voice on the record.
I did.
But other than that insignificant thing, yeah. So
Other than that.
you're just on your app and
Yeah.
you just click to submit. You put it out there and just probably forget about it, right? Because there's thousands of records being released every day.
Yeah. As I say, I've never been on a Spotify playlist or a proper one like that. So then the next thing I know, I end up on the Christmas Jazz Spotify playlist, and you're in amongst some just unbelievable names like Harry Connick Jr. and everybody you would want to be amongst. And then and over the course of the next month or so, I ended up with 630,000 streams. So we didn't know where it was going to stop, obviously after the first day or two, and it was released on December the 4th last year. After the first day or two, thinking, oh my word, I have 5,000 streams on this single. This is amazing.
Sounds rubbish now, doesn't it?
Yeah. But then I spoke to Silver Screen and I said, can you believe what's happening? 5,000 streams. And they were thinking, well, because they have had this many, many times. But he said, you wait till closer to Christmas, because then, of course, on Christmas Day, I had 50,000 streams just on that one day. So that's
and this wasn't, even though, so Silver
Screen.
Screen,
Yeah.
they they also didn't have anything to do with this other than, you know, commissioning and producing the thing.
Yeah.
It's not like they have got some special in with Spotify, you know. It's, I mean, that's what I'm
wouldn't have
saying
thought
is
so.
whether
No.
you're an independent artist that's producing your own material and just submitting it as we all do in a normal way. I mean, you don't think that it would have made any difference whether it was you doing that or even Universal doing that. It's just, it all goes up there, and if somebody, an editor at Spotify, likes it, it's in.
I think it is helpful where it's coming from. So if it's just an independent individual artist, and when they're submitting, they're writing out their whole CV and they're saying this is what I plan to do with the single, and this is how I plan to promote it, and this is why I did it in the first place, which are a lot of great points to write down when you are submitting. I think it will help if it is a big company, especially one like Universal.
But when you submitted Last Christmas, your version of Last Christmas, that was just you. That wasn't the silver screen.
It was silver screen. It was them, okay. Yes. So I think that they probably have found the golden formula for what to write down in that submission.
And have you got somebody from Silver Screen sitting next to you now so we can talk to them and find out what that secret formula is?
I don't, but that could be another episode of Cabaret Secrets.
You're right. It could. So so for that, I mean, do you get some kind of gold disc or something? Do they give you a prize?
Yes, they give me all the gold discs and all the prizes, and I would love to get them for you now, but I'm wearing some shorts, so don't want to ruin the illusion.
Well, no, we don't want to see your legs, but we'll just take your word for it that you. What did they send you?
No, in all honesty, they didn't send me anything. I think it's really like I don't think that's enough.
Didn't I see some kind of certificate? Or am I just imagining?
Yes, you did. No, my dad is very talented, and he is a printer and owns a printing company, and very like us. He's very creative, and also likes to play with people's imaginations. So I appreciate that, Dad. Thank you.
It was beautiful. It looks like something. What a shame Spotify don't send you a little.
I don't think it was enough streams. You know, it's not like.
No, it was only 600,000. It's not.
I know. It's
not worth the paper.
What else do you want? You know, blood. But then, but you know, YouTube, as you know, if you get 1 million streams, they send you a nice little plaque. But Spotify, I'm not sure because although I've reached these new dizzy heights. I've yet to experience real stardom, you know. But
we should say also that, you know, it's the same. I really like what you said at the beginning. Like, you know, at the beginning, you've just got to have a following. There's no point in, you know, you're relying on this a core fan base to help you. But actually, even before that, if we're talking about a release and making it a success. Number one, really, you've got to have the talent, right? It's got to be great. It's you know, if you're a singer, you've got to be a great singer. If you're an instrumentalist, you've got to be a great instrumentalist. And you need to be surrounding yourself with really great people, great producers, great musicians, great arrangers. And that's something that I know you've always done. I've always admired about you, that you've really sought out and worked with some great people, particularly arrangers. And this really helps you to produce stuff that's kind of world class, right? You're not doing stuff, you know, just you're not just knocking rubbish out, right, and expecting to get somewhere. You are producing consistently very, very high quality stuff. So you're welcome, but that's probably the first thing, isn't it?
I think there's no denying it that musically what I have been putting out there is worthy of people's attention, and that has to be the case for it to be a repeated scenario where you are getting a number one, and then maybe the next month you release another single and it reaches number one again. You know, because people keep coming back, and it's just like, you know, putting on a good show. You want to put out a good record.
It's true. You know, when I see artists or people would ask me about, how do you you know, fill a cabaret room, or how do you, whatever, you know, develop your audience? And, you know, the first time you hire a room somewhere and you put on your show, it's actually not that difficult to fill because it's a special occasion, it's an event, and so all your friends and family, they'll all come along, and everybody just comes anyway. But and maybe the second time, maybe, but after you've done it 20 times, right, you've used that card, and by then you need to be relying on normal people, fans. You need sort of organic growth, don't you? You can't just be relying on this 50 reliable fans to come along. But it takes time, and that's the other thing that you mentioned, which people, when I think particularly younger artists, how do you do this? How do we get a number one in the iTunes chart? How do we fill a cabaret room? We're all looking for the magic answer, right? The quick, easy answer. Now, you have given us some really useful little tricks, which is great. But at the end of the day, it also relies on good quality, and it's consistent, and it's just doing it for a long time. I mean, you'd been doing this for many, many years, before you're consistently getting the success that you're having. It takes time, doesn't it? And I saw there was a TED talk which I really liked, which was really it was the definition of what, some woman had done some research on what's going on with the people that are successful to those which are less successful. And she analyzed, or she looked at, she studied, I think it was like school kids from when they were at school to graduating into their lives, people that were in the armed forces and so on. And she found that what really made the successful people stand out was what she defined as grit. And grit being the people that just keep persevering and don't give up when they get knocked back by disappointment. And let's face it, in our business, whatever level you're at, I mean, I think whatever level you're at, whether you are a superstar or a jobbing singers like you and I, or people just starting out, I mean, it's sometimes it feels like it's nothing but disappointments and knockbacks, isn't it? I mean, we're putting so much out there, and there's so much of it is not getting where we want it to be, that it's easy to get disheartened, but we just have to
you have to stick it out. Yeah, if you're lucky enough to be in a position where you can stick it out, then that is probably the best scenario to be in, because that would probably mean that you've got a nice, good kind of family support, and perhaps just decent people around you who can help you out if you are putting something out there that doesn't work and you seem to need a little bit of help here or there. So it's I would say it's probably like for me, I've been so lucky. I have so many people who have had my back over the years, and people who perhaps directed me in different ways. And I also have to say that within the jazz community, there's nothing but support from your peers and people you look up to, especially. So that's helped a lot over the years. People like yourself and Paul Pace. I remember you both being on a podcast years ago, and my name cropped up. I couldn't believe it. Just like such lovely support in this industry, on this side of it, in this particular genre. But then, if you can stick it out, I would say just put out as much as you can that you love and that you're proud of, because you never know what will stick. Some of the most successful YouTube videos I've had, and some of the most successful singles that I've put out, have been things that I've just done because I loved them, and I didn't think that many people would listen or watch. But actually, they're the ones that have been the most successful, strangely.
That's really interesting. Speaking of things you love, shall we get Crystal in now? I'm sure she's ready. She's been very patient listening to you talk about yourself.
I'm coming. I'll head back there and let Crystal have the main stage.
Swap around a minute.
I've just realised on Restream here, there's a little timer. So we've been going 40 minutes now. We're way over time. But that was good.
That's longer
Hi,
than
Crystal. How are you doing?
I've been so enjoying this interview. It's lovely.
Me too. It is. I mean, it is so great to, just learn from one another, right? We're all we're all sort of trying to get to the same place, but we find our own little pathways and stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, even just doing this now, Shane, you've been really helpful with telling me about Restream and stuff. I mean, we're all, and that's the thing these days, we're just all learning new skills, aren't we? So, Crystal, we're talking, the theme of this thing is how to get number one, how to be successful in the charts. And so your single that you recently released, all part of your Celine Dion thing. So you reached out, well, tell me how that came about. You reach out to somebody who's quite close to Celine, I think.
Yes, so I just released a cover of the 80s rock tune Alone by Heart, which was also covered by Celine Dion as well. I have a Celine Dion tribute show. And so when we all went into lockdown and all started collaborating with artists virtually, with the support of Shane, telling me just ask the questions, which is something that is always a bit intimidating when you want to collaborate with someone who you might feel might be a little out of your league, or someone that you admire, and so for me this particular situation was with a gentleman named Kevin Chihuahua, who is Celine Dion's touring guitarist, and he has played with her for years in her.
And you only knew
Las Vegas
his name. You hadn't met him. You just, because you're a Celine fan, you kind of knew who was in her band, and
well,
you just thought,
yeah. I mean, certainly being a Celine Dion tribute, you have to do your research, right? And any kind of tribute artist, you gotta do all the things. And like any modern millennial woman, I'm really, really great at finding people on social media. So I do all the digging.
That's usually where it stops, right? You do all the digging, you get the names, you think, I'm not gonna contact
right.
that person.
So I connected with him on Facebook, and months prior, just because I was like, let me just see. Let me see if Celine Dion's guitarist, who incidentally, out of, her, all the band members, he's probably the most featured live musician in those shows, because he's coming out to the front of the stage with her playing all these amazing solos, and the Celine Dion fans are obsessed with him. Obsessed with him, and he is
poor guy. He just wants to play his guitar.
He's wonderful. He's an amazing Canadian guitarist, and he anyway, he's so lovely and so down to earth, and I asked if he'd want to collaborate just on a YouTube video, because he has a bit of a following on his YouTube, and I see him put out covers all the time, and he's always putting out his own content, so I just kind of reached out to collaborate on a song together for YouTube, and then he was like, yeah, sure, sounds great. And then he puts together this amazing track, and Shane and I look at each other after listening to it, and we're like, we have to release this.
Yeah, this is just too good just to
too
leave
good.
on YouTube.
Yeah, for it to just like be a YouTube video that potentially no one sees. And
so he just did that. It's not like he said, okay, I'll do it, but you got to pay me this ton of money. And, it wasn't like such a transactional thing for him. Then
no.
It was,
No, sometimes, a lot of the time it can be, I guess.
Yeah,
right.
And certainly...
Well, you would expect it to be, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and certainly when we were proposing the idea of releasing the song, I was fully prepared to be like, if you want a session fee, or if you want a buyout, or blah, 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 listen, this is our industry, right? We want to treat our fellow artists with respect and stuff, and he was just like, I trust you, like, just go for it. And he, which is, I think, a very rare scenario for someone who...
But when he says he trusts you, so bear in mind, this is going out to artists like us, right? So when he says he trusts you, what does he mean? What is he trusting you? What if it becomes a big hit, that you're going to give him
that
some
I'll be
money,
honorable and
share it with him,
and share it with him, which of course is the agreement, but
so it's more like a friendship collaboration rather.
Yes.
Very casual. Yeah.
My manager for a long time, a fellow called Derek Block, he old school. Yeah. And everything was on a handshake, actually, even quite big deals that we were doing, and
interesting.
I know it's difficult, that's not really practical in many ways, but wherever it is possible to just, have an agreement and stick to it. I mean, we have to have our integrity, otherwise there's nothing, we have to, it's so fundamental. And life is just so much easier and more pleasant if we're able to trust each other and, have a deal and shake hands and so on. Yeah. It's really nice. It's really, so we really should, I mean, I'm worried that this thing is going to get to a point. I'm going to say stop recording. I'm not going to. We're going to stop this, and none of it's recorded. But we should wrap it up. But it's an interesting takeaway from you, Crystal. This thing of just asking for help, and often when we do, we might be surprised of the positive response that we get.
Yeah, I mean, in this particular situation, for me, I mean, I was just like. We were like jumping for joy. We were so excited. And then because initially all of my conversations with Kevin was, have I said his name yet? His name's Kevin Giroir. We're just like all via Facebook Messenger, and we hadn't actually like met even via video chat yet. And then when the three of us actually all got together on a video chat, and it was just such a lovely experience and so wonderful. And just like Shane said, in general, my experience just being in this industry, yes, you can meet a lot of people who are divas and maybe are a little bit more rigid about monetary compensation for certain things, even something just among artists when we are all suffering under this pandemic financially, right? So what a breath of fresh air to have someone, who I had never met before, just be like, let's create together. And I think that is for anyone who is younger and trying to come up the ranks in this, it's like, just ask, reach out to people, find your tribe.
I remember we were going for a walk and you were toying with the idea of messaging him.
I was nervous.
And I said, just do it.
Yes.
And you did it, and lo and behold, he replied. But that really has been instilled in me from a young age, from my dad, who just can't believe why I'm not, getting number ones in the pop charts and things like that. He, as a loving father would be.
That's his job.
He's been very helpful over the years, and the reason why I am where I am is because I've asked people. I asked Pete Long from everyone knows Pete Long, I guess, but
who runs the Ronnie Scott's big band as well as many other bands. Hugely successful, charismatic figure on the jazz scene.
I asked him to play in a big band of mine nearly a decade ago. From then, he then booked me for his band to go and play in Monte Carlo with Ian and Lance, Ian McKenzie and Lance Ellington and Emma Smith and those guys. And then from there, I got in touch with Paul Pace, who I know you know very well, and he and I said, oh, hey, look, I just performed with your band out in Monte Carlo. How about a gig at Ronnie Scott's? And I had just performed there with you, so I was on a roll. And then he gave me a few dates, and from so. Just from asking one person to work with you once could really lead you down this fantastic avenue.
Absolutely, it's fantastic. And you know what? Also, I think is important for a lesson that we can learn from this is that we realize, because I had the same thing as well, as particularly in the early part of my career. People were just so kind and so helpful. Not everybody, but most people. But the people that were really helpful, you remember them. You remember these kindnesses, because if someone's already a big success, of course people will do. If I'm already a huge success and I ask someone, hey, do you want to sing with me? Of course they're going to say yes. But if I'm starting out and I'm nothing, I've got I've got nothing really to offer, and somebody that I admire says yes to me, well, that's a big deal, and particularly if it does help you just get up a little rung on the ladder.
Yeah.
And I think one of the nicest things about that is that as our careers develop and we are in a position where we're able to help other people, that we remember how special and meaningful it was when somebody helped us, and it helps us to pay it forward, doesn't it? And I think that's such a beautiful thing in our industry, that we, as somebody who's always been very generous and kind, not just to me, I know to everybody, is Michael Feinstein, the ambassador of the Great American Songbook. Well, he's always been there for me if I've needed a favor or needed help on something. So kind, so generous. And he knows he's going out of his way to help somebody who isn't as fortunate as him or isn't in the same position as him. And so many people are so grateful to him and people like him for what they have done for other people's careers, for other people in our industry. Anyway, we have to wrap it up. But what a beautiful conversation.
The likes of you and Jeff Hooper and Lance Ellington and Ian McKenzie, Matthew Ford, these are all names who to me are my Michael Feinstein, so thank you very much for all of your help throughout the years, and thank you for having me on your show.
Well, it really is my pleasure, because now you've taught me how to have a number one. I've never had one, but I'm gonna get so sick of having number ones.
Maybe we can have one together.
That would be very nice. Really great to talk to you both. Take care.
You.
And lots of love.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.